And now, our story continues. In Miles Memorial Hospital, Ricky Scanlon had regained consciousness. Going to his room to hear the boy's story, Dr. Paul, Jonathan Smith, and Virginia Martin had heard him accuse Dr. Paul's father-in-law of complicity in the bootlegging, perhaps of being the person who had abducted him. Dr. Paul and Virginia had been both shocked and surprised by Ricky's accusation. Jonathan Smith, realizing the potential danger of Ricky's information, pretended at first to be amused. But then, as Ricky pressed the charge, Mr. Smith had become angry, had termed the charge ridiculous, and insisted of Dr. Paul that Ricky be turned over to the sheriff. Ricky, answering Mr. Smith, had said,
Sure, I know. You think you can get away with it, Mr. Smith? Make me look like a liar. Now, maybe it was Pop Walters who drove that car, or maybe it was you, I don't know. But I do know this. You're connected with the bootlegging in some way. I know you're the guy behind it.
Well, Paul? Ricky, surely you must realize the seriousness of this charge. You must have more to base it on than you've told us.
Yes, Ricky. How can you be so sure?
I told you what Pop Walters said, Dr. Paul. He talked like somebody had got to Mr. Smith, had arranged with him to call off the investigation. I was surprised then. It didn't seem possible that a man like Mr. Smith could be fixed.
Fixed?
Yeah. Only now I know it wasn't a fix, Mr. Smith. You were in it all along.
That's very interesting.
And then, when I got to his house, he put me to bed and gave me a glass of water, Dr. Paul. He didn't say it had a sleeping powder in it. He shouldn't have given it to me. He knew I had to get to the hospital and I had to talk to you.
Well, Ricky, I'm inclined to feel Jonathan was thinking of you, that he thought you needed something of that kind. Certainly. You saw the condition the boy was in?
Yeah. He was thinking of me, all right. He was thinking it wouldn't be healthy for him if I got to the hospital. Because he went to the phone, Dr. Paul, and he called somebody. I don't know who it was, but I heard what he said.
Yes? What did I say?
Well, he was talking low. He didn't want me to hear. I don't remember exactly, but I know he said, your boy's here. And there's something about, it's a good thing he landed here first. I thought it sounded queer. Then he said, I'll keep him here. You'd better come right away.
That explains it, Paul. I told you I thought that was what scared him when I called Sheriff Ellis. I imagine I did say something very similar to that. Your boy's here. I'm sure I must have said it. I held on until Ellis came. That was my intention. So that's where you got this crazy idea, eh, Ricky?
You know it wasn't the sheriff, Mr. Smith.
I'm afraid you misinterpreted Jonathan's conversation, Ricky. I know he phoned Sheriff Ellis.
No, I didn't misinterpret anything, Dr. Paul. It was clear enough. And what about the investigation? The way Mr. Smith acted. Didn't it seem funny to you that he turned cold on us so quick?
Certainly I was cold. Because I didn't think there was sufficient evidence to support the charge. And judging from the way it turned out, I was right. Now, look, boy. If you think I was the person who abducted you, how do you suppose I managed it?
It could have been you just as easily as Pop Walters, Mr. Smith. Easier, maybe. Because Pop might have figured he was being watched, even if the raid did turn out as it did.
Yeah, sure. It could have been me, or maybe it was Miss Martin here, or the King of Siam. Paul, this is the most bare-faced batch of lying I've ever encountered.
Please, Mr. Smith. I know Ricky isn't deliberately lying. If he's confused...
If he's confused. Do you suggest there's even a possibility of truth in what he's saying? Paul, it's preposterous. I actually feel that I'm reduced to defending myself against this boy's charges.
I'm sorry, Mr. Smith. I was only going to say, if Ricky is confused, I'm sure it's a misunderstanding that can be cleared up.
Yes, Jonathan, I think we can get it straightened out without going overboard. No, it's a joke.
I'm not trying to lie out of anything, Dr. Paul.
I know you're not, Ricky. But it's unfortunate that you have this interpretation of what happened. I'd feel better if you saw it more clearly. Oh, let the boy make whatever accusations he wants, Paul. Can't make any difference to me one way or another. But he ought to realize it's going to make things a lot worse for himself. First, it was Walters he accused, just because he had a grudge against the old man. Because Walters threw him out of the store.
Well, that's a lie.
Why, you...
I read what Pop Walters said in the paper, and it's not true. I never made any disturbance in his sweet shop.
And now he accuses me. The one who's responsible for uncovering his dirty little deal and putting him where he belongs. You better stop this nonsense, Ricky.
I read what Pop Walters said in the paper, and it's not true. I never made any disturbance in his sweet shop.
And now he accuses me. The one who's responsible for uncovering his dirty little deal and putting him where he belongs. You better stop this nonsense, Ricky. Just gets you in deeper, that's all. You ought to have sense enough to know how people are going to take it.
I don't care how they take it. It's true.
You won't have them so bitter against you if you accept your own guilt and stop turning right and left and put the blame on somebody else.
I'm willing to accept my own guilt, Dr. Paul. But what about the others?
What others?
You gotta believe me, Dr. Paul. Pop Walters did have the liquor there. He's the guy who hired me.
Yes, Ricky, I do believe you. I'm convinced Walters got wise to the raid in some fashion. But so far as your accusation of Jonathan is concerned...
Can you imagine me mixed up in a tanty-ante deal like that, Paul? Oh, yeah. Even my worst enemies wouldn't believe it. No, Paul. If I were going to turn racketeer, I assure you that bootlegging in Elkhorn City wouldn't interest me.
Of course, Jonathan. Ricky's suspicions are pretty fantastic.
Okay, Dr. Paul. Maybe I'm wrong, but I didn't...
Paul, this is ridiculous. Frankly, I don't think it should be given the dignity of further discussion. The only sensible thing to do is to call Sheriff Ellis and let him take over. With a mind as twisted as this boy's is, there's no telling what he might try to concoct. Tell you, he's no good. He's headed for trouble. The kind of a start he's got, I wonder what he'd be like by the time he's 21.
Mr. Smith, please. You may feel your indignation is justified, but I hardly think it need go that far. Ricky may be confused, but he isn't deliberately lying. He doesn't have a twisted mind, and he isn't a hardened criminal.
Well, he isn't in an enviable spot right now, Miss Martin. And he isn't in anything that wasn't of his own choosing. I'm going, Paul. I've had enough of this.
Well, I suppose it can rest for the time being. Ricky's had enough conversation for a while anyway. Oh, the sheriff and the stenographer will be here before long to take a statement from you, Ricky. In the meantime, I think you better take things easy.
Okay, Dr. Paul.
Come along, Jonathan. Miss Martin.
Is there anything you'd like, Ricky? I'll be back in a few minutes.
No, thanks, Miss Martin. Oh, has Mavis called or anything?
Oh, yes, Ricky. I'm sorry. I forgot to tell you. Your sister was here earlier with Mr. Duval. You were still sleeping.
Oh, I see. Was she upset?
Yes, but she felt better when she found out how well you were getting along. She'll be back.
Okay.
Now you try to get some rest. I'll look in again pretty soon.
All right, Dr. Paul.
Coming to the office, Jonathan?
No, Paul, it's getting late. I'll go on home. I think you're making a serious mistake, Paul. Not turning the boy over to the sheriff.
Well, I don't, Jonathan. We'll keep him here a while longer.
All right, Paul. You're the doctor.
Yes, either way you take it in this case. I'll see you later.
Good night. Good night, Miss Martin.
Good night, Mr. Smith.
Got a few minutes, Miss Martin? Want to get a cup of coffee over at Dean?
Well, perhaps I shouldn't right now, Dr. Boss. There's no one else to stay with Ricky.
Uh-huh. Funny, Ricky feeling that Jonathan is mixed up in this thing.
Yes. I know it's a misunderstanding, Dr. Boss, but...
But Jonathan shouldn't have been so vindictive? Yes, I know, Virginia. But no two of us are alike. We all see things differently.
We simply can't let the people here get that idea about Ricky, Dr. Bach. That he's completely bad, deserving of no consideration. I'm afraid it might happen.
It's already happening, Miss Martin. But I intend to see that he gets an even break. There's far more good in Ricky than there is bad. It's this Walters thing that has me worried.
Walter?
Yes, I'm confident he's guilty, but how can we prove it?
Dr. Bach, when Ricky first came to us, when he confessed. Do you remember what we told him?
Yes, Miss Martin. We assured him the men behind this would be caught. I don't know. Doesn't look very good. But somehow we have to keep that promise to Ricky.
Jonathan Smith would like to protect Pop Walters, place the full responsibility on the shoulders of the injured Ricky, and get the boy out of the way. While his son-in-law, Dr. Paul, is correct that Jonathan isn't connected with the bootlegging, he has nevertheless been forced to cooperate. And Ricky's accusation has given him little peace of mind.